I also recently went to a place in China called Guilin and Yangshou. The Chinese call this the fairyland. I thought this place had really beautiful energy. Are there really fairies living in this land? And could you also talk about the energies of this beautiful place? Okay. So Guilin and Yangshou. So I'm not sure if those are the two places or if it's one place, but we'll see what Adronis can come through in regards to this area. So let me just go ahead and bring him back in and see what we can find. We thank you once again for your second inquiry, Nathan, pertaining to the idea of Guilin and Yangshuo in that sense, that yes, these do represent in that sense enchanted lands. Now understand that there are, shall we say, certain forms of wilderness and regions of nature surrounding these particular cities that represent the idea of, shall we say, pyramid-like structures, but again, moving it more so in the idea of natural mountains. Nature in that way representing the idea of amplifiers. Now, the idea of what you would refer to as your fey realms, as the idea of fairies, pixies, etc. Yes, they do exist, but again, understand that they exist primarily in different dimensions as they coordinate together with the alignment of nature on your planet. And so there are times to where there are, in that sense, openings of dimensional rifts, where there may have been certain individuals, again, going back into your ancient past, that have witnessed the idea of fairies, that have witnessed the idea of pixie energy, that have represented the idea of elemental forms of consciousness, of apparition, that may have appeared within some of the mountain ranges, specifically within these particular cities. So these cities, in that sense, do hold a particular harmonic resonance. Again, there are conjunctions, just like we were talking about through the idea of Muria, in that sense, to where there are openings, higher degrees of portal rifts that are starting to open up and becoming much more energetically ripe in that way of saying, and being able to have the awareness of this energy come forward. So the whole idea here is that, yes, there are fairy lands in that way, much in regards to the nature itself is being preserved through the idea of this crisscrossing between different dimensional plateaus to where information is being exchanged between different dimensionalities to which animals and towards plant life, to which they are able to actually intersect and communicate with many of these dimensional realms. And so again, through certain forms of alignments that do take place frequently throughout your planet, throughout the idea of solstices, equinoxes, and again, certain other levels of transits, that there can be these unfoldings of dimensional rifts to where particular beings that you would refer to as elementals, fairies, pixies, etc., can in that sense be felt by those in that sense who may be wandering the mountain ranges, who may be in that sense hiking throughout the mountains, who in that sense who may also be, shall we say, much of the indigenous folk in your past have in that sense worked together and had communications with these particular forms of interdimensional beings that would represent your fairy folk, your fey realms, the idea of the elementals themselves. This is again not unheard of. There are in that sense many different forms of hotspots, as it were, relating to many of these different forms of elemental planes that do intersect, again, in conjunction, in appropriation to certain times within your planet to where these beings can be known in regards to the eyes of those who they feel they are aligned to connect with in a certain way, to convey messages, or to have the realization that there is an enchantment through the idea of the nature, where this realization and operation of other particular forms of elemental beings can intersect and interact with certain forms of human beings at certain times. And so the idea of these two particular cities would be no different in the idea of its understanding, relating to the ripeness of the interdimensional realms that crisscross and intersect together with your own. We thank you.